Hi everyone, my name is Mustafa and in today's tutorial we are going to learn how to create a very simplified slideshow using HTML, CSS and JavaScript with 10 lines of 10 lines of JavaScript actually. So at the end of the tutorial we are going to achieve something like this, what you are seeing on your screen right now. So let's jump into the code and let's have some magic happen. So let me scrape that off. Let me scrape the script off and scrape this one equally off. So I have personally included my personal CSS, which is here. If you're a fan of Bootstrap, you're welcome to use Bootstrap to do whatever you want to do, but I'm using my personal CSS. So we're going to have this div of width 100% and the height of 100 view height, and we are going to assign a position of relative to it because the next element that is going to contain are all going to be absolute. So we're going to have the first div of position of absolute of width 100% and still height of 100 view height, and we are going to assign another class we called slide. We will need this class later on when we are querying the DOM. So now over here I'm going to include an inline style. I'm going to have the background image URL. First and foremost, you realize that I have this folder here with 3 images in it. So on your PC you may have your personal images, so you are good to use that, but for me, in the folder that I'm working from, I have an images folder which contains 3 images, so that is what I'm using. So images, I'm grabbing the first one, which is Kim. It's a picture of Kim Kardashian. If you don't like Kim Kardashian, you may use a different image as well. So we have the background image. We're going to have the background position of center, background repeat of no repeat, and then background size of cover. Great. So I think we are good. So now let's refresh our page. So there we have it. We have a picture of Kim Kardashian and her mom. And we'll copy this code and paste it and just change and include the next image. So the next image, as we can see here, is Kim1. So that's what I have here. So the Kim1 is going to be on top of the first image, which is this one. So if we refresh the page, we have that. And let's include the last image, which is an image of Nicki Minaj. If you don't like it, you can use your personal image. If you're a fan of Barack Obama or Donald Trump, you can use that. So there we have it. So I've included the third image. So Nicki Minaj is going to be on top of all of them. Great. So now this is all we need for our HTML and our CSS. If you're writing your own CSS, you're going to have the first div, which is this container of your width. The width is going to be 100%, the height is going to be 100 view height, and then the position is going to be relative. And this sub div, which is this one, that one, and that one, are also going to have position of absolute, width of 100, height of 100 view height, and I'm calling it slide. So that's that. So let's get into the JavaScript, which is the most important thing. So I'm going to call this function slideshow. slideshow, and that's that. First, let me declare a variable called position, and I'm going to assign the value 0 to it. And down here, I'm going to call the slideshow. I'm calling it immediately because, you know, as a developer, you may forget to call your function, and you may be wondering why your function is not, you know, running. So we have it done. We also know this function is going to, you know, loop, iterate. So we are going to call the set timeout on it already so that we don't forget. So let's say for every 3 seconds we want this function to run again. So we call that. This is like me working backwards, but forgive me. This is all that I'm doing. When I'm done with this. So let's go on. So now we are going to query this document, and we are going to grab all the classes called slide. So over here we see 3 slides here. So we are going to define this variable called slide, and I'm going to do this document the query selector all. This command line is going to, this line of code is going to query the DOM and grab all CSS of the name slide. Now what we're going to do is this. For each and every one of them, currently they are, you know, they are visible, but you know, you can't see it. Currently they are visible, but you know, you can't see it. Let me show you. If we right click on this and we inspect the element, we're on Nicki Minaj, right? Now over here, right over here, we can include an opacity of 0. If we do this, and you realize that the next one is visible. If we do the same thing for this is equally going to be visible. So that is basically what we are trying to achieve. So here we are going to say for each and every slide that we see here, this one, that one, that one, say slide dot for each. Now call this item. So for each and every one of this slide, we are going to assign the style of an opacity 0. So item dot style dot opacity equals 0. Now if we save this and refresh, we realize that there's nothing visible over here because we've assigned each of these divs an opacity of 0. If we go back on the page and then we right click and we inspect the element, we realize that each and every one of them has an opacity of 0. Look over here, opacity of 0. Over there, opacity of 0. And the next one to opacity of 0. So all these 3 divs of class slide currently have an opacity of 0. Great. So now what we are doing is this. Now that we've assigned each and every one of them to have an opacity of 0, we'll come down and then we're saying the slide of the position, this position, should have a style of opacity 1. So now currently we are not incrementing this position, so we are always going to have the first position as 0. So if we refresh this page, we realize that the first image, which is this, is going to be visible to us. So if we refresh this, we are going to have that, and that is always going to be visible. So now what we are going to say is this. We are going to increment the position class, and this is going to be beautiful, but then at the end we are going to see some error. So let's run it first. We have this. After 3 minutes, the next one is going to come. After 3 minutes, the other one is going to come. But after 3 minutes, there is going to be an error because there is no image after the third one. So if we inspect elements and then we go to console log, we realize that the position is undefined, which is true. So we need to check the position here. So over here, before anything happens, we say position is equal to. Now we are going to check the position. And I'm using what we call let's forget about that. We are checking, is this position greater or equal to? No, let me assign it here, right underneath the slide. So we'll check position. We're saying position, is this position greater or equal to this slide dot length? Over here we have slide. We are calling the DOM to grab all the classes of slide. So we have 1 slide, 2 slide, 3 slide. So the length of this slide is 3. So we are checking, is this position, for instance, 0? Is 0 greater or equal to 3? If that's the case, then we'll say the position should return back to 0, else the position should remain as what it is. So over here we have 0. So we are checking, is this 0? Is 0 greater or equal to 3? Because the length of this is 3. Is 0 greater or equal to 3? If yes, then assign the position to be 0. If no, then the position maintains as 0. And then it goes over here. We set all these divs to have an opacity of 0, and then we grab the first element here, and then we assign it a position of an opacity of 1. So if we run this, we realize that our slideshow is working beautiful. It's back on. After every 3 seconds, you see the next image. After the other 3 seconds, you see the other image. Great. Now this is not looking too great. So we need to include some transition. So over here we have style transition of, let's say, 2 seconds, or ease in and out, right? And then over here we are going to have the class slide to have a transition of 1 second, or ease in and out equally. So now if we refresh this, like I'm saying, this is all that you need for your JavaScript for a slideshow. This is all that you need for a slideshow. So with the added on style, you realize that it transitions in a beautiful manner. So there you have it. After every 3 seconds, is it 3 or 2? I think it's 3, yeah. So after every 3 seconds, the next image, is visible. So yes, that's that on that. So if you're working on a project and you need to create a slideshow, you don't need to panic or anything. All you have to do is just write this simple lines of code, and then you are good to go. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.